Desk, the Northern Lights put on a national show as they are visible as far south as Florida. Will help you understand this beautiful phenomenon.
Solar wind races in towards Earth's atmosphere, and that's where we see the aurora.
The cold and snow will soon give way to warmth, but not before leaving some folks surprised.
Much more of a chore than we expected.
And is your car ready for winter?
Make sure you've got blankets in your vehicle because you never know if your car's going to quit running.
A typhoon strikes Taiwan, flooding streets and leaving a bicyclist stuck on a road. Also, how folks in Maine are battling the impact of climate change on beaches. And a look at the allure of moon halos.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. It's usually very difficult, if not impossible, to see the northern lights unless you live in a northern state. But that was not the case last night and then early this morning. Two monster coronal mass ejections set off a geomagnetic storm. That means much of the nation, including the Deep South, had great views of the aurora borealis. People in dozens of states, including Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, even Florida saw the show. The solar storm was the strongest of the year, which is why so many people were able to see the lights. Meteorologist Violet Skybor helps us better understand the science behind the beauty.
The Northern Lights, also known as the aurora borealis, is a spectacular sight to see. But what is it and how does it form? Well, it's an interaction between the sun and the earth. So let's get into it, starting with Earth. Earth has magnetic fields stretching out from the poles and wrapping around the earth. The sun sends out a solar wind towards Earth, which is charged protons and electrons emitted from the sun. And as it races towards Earth, it follows Earth's magnetic field. The weakest points of that magnetic field is the North and the South Pole. That's where that solar wind races in towards Earth's atmosphere, and that's where we see the aurora. So the electrons, once they reach the poles, collide with various molecules in Earth's atmosphere. And the resulting excitation of these collisions causes varying colors based on the height and the type of molecules that they hit. So red auroras happen when it hits oxygen molecules above 200 kilometers. Blue auroras are from nitrogen molecules around 100 to 200 kilometers and up. Green auroras are also from oxygen molecules, but from around 100 to 200 kilometers. Pink auroras are below 100 kilometers, and that happens with nitrogen molecules.
And when it comes to the northern lights, how do we know when they're going to happen? It's not an exact science, and we are not as great as predicting the northern lights as we are with hurricanes, maybe tornadoes, but we do have some tools that help. Meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael gives us a closer look at forecasting auroras.
First off, the sun flips its magnetic poles every 11 years. When it does that, it becomes more active. You get sunspots, you get solar flares, or these corona mass ejections. The National Weather Service has a space weather prediction center, and they try to predict when these waves of energy will reach the Earth. But keep in mind, the sun is 93 million miles away from us. So we can see when that sneeze or that burst of energy happens from the sun, but the tricky part is which direction is it going and how fast. It can travel as fast as 1,800 miles per second or as slow as 150 miles per second. The difference between those two, that energy could arrive to Earth in as little as maybe 14 hours or as long as 172 hours, which is about 7 days. But keep in mind, we don't have a lot of instruments out there in space. So for the first 92 million miles from the sun, there's no satellites. However, 1 million miles above the Earth's surface, we do have a satellite that can tell us how strong that wave of energy is about to be. It's called Lagrange point number 1, and it is the perfect position in the gravitational field between the sun and the Earth, where it will always stay right there between both of those. But it's only about 1 million miles ahead of us. So that means that we only get about a 20 to 40 minute heads up of how much energy is about to impact us here on Earth. Let's do another example. Let's say someone's traveling across the country to come visit you. You know what time they left, you know approximately how fast they're going to go. But you don't really know exactly when they're going to be on your doorstep until maybe 20 minutes out they call and give you a heads up of, hey, I'm right around the corner, I'll be there shortly. So since the sun is on these 11-year cycles, that means we're heading into the next few years being pretty active, where you might see this happen a little bit more often.
Well, and good news here, there's another opportunity to catch the lights tonight, but unlike last night, viewing may not reach the deep south. But if you live in the green and red areas, you're going to have a chance. In order to get the best views, make sure you are in a dark area away from city lights. Give your eyes time to adjust to the dark. You will need to look to the night sky between 10 p.m. and maybe 2 a.m. in the morning. And if you plan to take photos with your phone, make sure you have night mode turned on with no flash. Well, light snow is still falling across portions of New York State, but the heavy snow that blanketed the Great Lakes region over the past 2 days is mostly over right now. Up to 10 inches fell in areas south of Syracuse, New York. While it's a bit earlier than usual, it's not a big deal for a region that averages over 100 inches of snow a year. Vermont is another place that sees a good share of snow as well. But as Abigail Sachs explains, even people here were caught off guard.
Ann and BJ Bombard were out all morning shoveling their driveway.
It's kind of in sticker shock right now.
They knew snow was coming, but didn't expect this much.
Thought we'd be able to probably just push it away easy in the morning, but turned out it was heavy, mushy snow.
The snowfall caused traffic trouble for some. Thomas Fleury works in Heinsberg and says it took him double the time to get home Monday night.
I did find some freezing rain and a little snow. It was pretty, but it was prettier when I got home and watched it from inside of my house than it was through the windshield.
Luckily, he got his snow tires on ahead of the storm.
Vermont, we know how to do snow. It's a survival thing, and we know how to cope and to get our snow tires on early for the most part.
And now that the weather is taking a cold turn, you may hear meteorologists use the term convective banding when talking about snowfall. Meteorologist Kit Alexander took to Facebook to explain what all that means.
As we're getting closer and closer to the wintertime season, you've probably noticed some narrow snow bands on radar that start to flare up, perhaps right over a lake, river, or even near an industrial plant during wintertime. In this case, it may not be just your imagination. What's happening is when cold air is moving over a warm surface, it can actually make the atmosphere a little bit unstable. That warm water or rising steam adds both heat and moisture into the lowest part of the atmosphere. And that's the perfect fuel for something we term as convective snow. And really what it is just narrow, intense bursts that can drop snow down in quite a hurry. Now, you see it most dramatically in the Great Lakes, but even smaller bodies of water like rivers, reservoirs, or even power plant cooling towers can do the same thing, just on a smaller scale. So the idea here is simple. What's happening is warm air is rising, it cools, condenses, eventually forms clouds, and when that rising air lines up with the cold, moist layers aloft, especially in that snow crystal growth zone, that's really the key factor here, the result is a quick burst of heavier snow, and sometimes it could be just a few miles wide. And this can be picked up on radar. It shows up as streaks of reflectivity, and we can sometimes trace that back to the source of where that warmer air begins. So in short, a little warm air in the right spot can make that cold air a whole lot snowier.
And cold temperatures dipped as far south as Florida, and that means iguanas were falling from trees. Wildlife experts say frigid temperatures stun the reptiles, causing them to lose control of their muscles and sometimes fall out of trees. Now, the condition did not kill them, but the iguanas are briefly paralyzed. The Wildlife Conservation Commission says we should leave the frozen iguanas alone until they recover and basically just run off. Well, check out Monday's sunrise over Manistee, Michigan. That's along the shore of Lake Michigan. You can see the morning started with partly cloudy skies, but shortly after 7 a.m., the snow arrived and quickly accumulated on streets, cars, and also sidewalks. And by sunset, most of it had actually melted. The typhoon that left at least 27 people dead in the Philippines earlier this week brought flooding to Taiwan today. Thousands of people were evacuated in advance of this storm. More than 1,000 homes in one town are reportedly flooded. And check this out right here. You can look at this guy right here. A man riding a bike got stuck in deep water and mud on a street. He was unable to get out of his own. And you can see it right there. Rescue crews brought in a backhoe to help rescue that guy. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how a changing climate is eroding beaches in Maine and how what local officials plan to do about it.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti. Look at the Northeast. We're tracking more unsettled conditions in the Northeast in the coming days, and it's going to be on the cool side. Look at this. Most areas will top out in the 40s to near 50 degrees. Expect more clouds and sun for a good chunk of the Northeast today. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. More lake effect rain and snow showers continue off of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. As we go into Thursday, kind of more of the same. More clouds than sun, but skies will be brightest from southern New England, points south.
I'm meteorologist Justin Chambers tracking your forecast Wednesday morning. Drier conditions, but still dealing with the wind and the cooler air, even though it will be a bit warmer on Wednesday afternoon ahead of another weak cold front that will come through. Still have to deal with the wind on Thursday, but notice we do stay mainly dry over the next couple of days. Temperatures are finally going to start to creep back up. Mid-50s on Wednesday afternoon, and then we'll keep those 50s on Thursday afternoon as well before we warm up for the weekend.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. After a chilly start to the day, expect mild conditions into the afternoon for most of the southeast. Still cool across the Carolinas in the 60s, the low 70s for the northern Gulf Coast, and the mid 70s for most of central and south Florida. High pressure is building in for the rest of the week. This keeps our weather pattern very quiet with a mostly sunny sky and only a few passing clouds across South Florida. Our low rain chance will stick around for the rest of the week.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Autumn, one of the transition seasons, but some places got an early taste of winter's chill and frost juxtaposed with the deep blue sky. And a satellite view of snowfall in the Great Smoky Mountains on Tuesday, but temperatures were above freezing, so it started to melt away. And along Wisconsin's Lake Winnebago, leaves blanket the ground in the waning days of fall.
Erosion fueled by weather and climate change is impacting the coastline in Maine. The shrinking dunes are reshaping popular beaches in that state. Allison LaPierre spoke with officials about the work that they are doing to combat that problem.
Maine sand dunes play a major role in shaping and protecting our coastline. But over the past decade, the shoreline at one of the state's busiest beaches has shifted dramatically. Popham Beach State Park in Phippsburg sits along the Gulf of Maine. Marine geologist Peter Slavinsky tells us movement of the Morse River is changing the landscape.
As the Morse River kind of whips to the north and east, which it does over time, at periods of about every 10 to 15 years or so, it erodes a lot of Popham Beach State Park, and then the beach at Small Point grows seaward.
Popham Beach has been eroding nearly 100 feet a year.
As the Morse River comes closer and closer to the parking lot at Popham Beach State Park, it erodes not only the beach, but it erodes the dunes, and all that sand is kind of redistributed into the different part of the system.
Slavinsky says currently Popham Beach is eroding faster than any other stretch of beach in Maine, partially due to storms. But he says strong weather can be positive and negative in terms of beach erosion.
You've got a river channel that's cut close to the beach, and you've got a big sandbar out here that sticks out. If you've got waves hitting that sandbar, that sand gets kind of pushed into the channel.
Maine's Bureau of Parks and Lands is looking at new ways to adapt the park as things like sea level and storm intensity threaten its future.
But in the longer term, let's start thinking about ways we can maybe manage the Morse River, and let's start thinking about ways that we can adapt some of the park infrastructure to be resilient moving into the future.
Well, climate change is also having a big impact on life in South Carolina. Rising tides mean flooding is a constant problem along the coast. Meteorologist Sonia Stevens is finding out how the Charleston area is protecting against flooding and other environmental issues.
Flood mitigation can be a variety of things.
Clearing drainage ditches, but there's also things like planting more trees and doing what we call nature-based solutions, which are more focused on putting, green infrastructure in, or thinking about the natural environment and how our natural landscape can reduce our risk to flooding just by the way that we decide to build or plant.
Other options are rain gardens and rain barrels. Planting trees also helps areas dealing with extreme heat. Another issue the county is tackling is brownfields, such as closed laundromats and old gas stations.
You remove the chemicals from that site, you clean it up, and in that process, with a strategic plan, you bring the community in and say, what do you want to see on this site?
Charleston County has received 2 grants as part of the EPA's Brownfields program, but Molly Cajano says she and other county leaders want to accomplish more. The sustainability plan was adopted in the summer of 2024. The main goals are affordable and resilient buildings, sustainable and inclusive transportation, clean energy for all, innovative industrial and agricultural sectors, and a circular economy.
There's a lot of different ways that we can approach resilience and sustainability across the county.
Well, many parts of the country just saw a preview of the winter weather ahead, and it was a great reminder that now is the perfect time to get your car ready for the cold winter months that are just around the corner. Samantha Allen has more.
Owner of Mike's Mobile Mechanic, Michael Serber, says before the cold sets in, drivers should double check everything from fluids to tires.
Make sure you've got blankets in your vehicle, because you never know if your car's going to quit running. And if you got your family in the car, you want to make sure they stay warm. Make sure you got water, snacks, something, just to help can get to you.
Serber says it's also important to splurge on the right washer fluid and check your tire pressure before hitting the road.
Splurge a little bit and get something that's like 20 to 30 below zero. It'll protect. Up to that, it'll stay liquid, and it'll keep the windshield clear.
And it's not just about your car, it's also about how you drive once that first snow falls.
If there's ice and stuff like that, it doesn't matter if you've got 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive and stuff. I mean, ice is ice. You just got to be really careful.
Experts say slowing down, giving yourself extra time, and staying alert can make all the difference when the roads get slick. So whether it's checking your fluids, scraping those side windows, or packing extra blankets, a few minutes of preparation could help you avoid a big problem later.
Make sure your headlights are working properly, bright and low, because you're going to need them. Fog lights, if you got them, make sure they work good. Make sure all your lights, your turn signals, brake lights. Not only is it a hazard to other motorists, it's a hazard to yourself.
And when you think of earthquakes, Montana might not be the first place that actually even comes to mind, but they are fairly common. The ground under western Montana shakes several times per day. Meteorologist Mitchell Combs explores how these rumblings are detected and even measured.
In Montana, active mapping and LiDAR data have helped to uncover approximately 80 potential active faults. Infrequently, the earthquakes are large enough that we can feel the shaking, though most are too small for anyone to notice. However, they do not go completely unnoticed thanks to the work of scientists around the world.
The standard method for determining when and where an earthquake occurred and how big it is by measuring the seismic waves that those earthquakes produce by groups of sensors known as seismographs. They consist of a sensor that's buried in the ground that can detect tiny movements.
By measuring the exact time the S and P seismic waves arrive at each sensor, scientists can triangulate that data back to the wave's origin as well as its depth that it triggered. The location at the surface where the earthquake occurs is known as the epicenter, and the area below the ground where it occurs is known as the hypocenter. The amplitude or height of the waves on a seismograph's readings help measure the size or strength of an earthquake. Earthquakes are measured on what is known as the Richter scale. It's a scale that goes from 0 to 10. Most earthquakes in western Montana are less than 2.5 in magnitude, but when we get those over 3.0 in magnitude, we can start to feel them. Moderate property damage often sets in with earthquakes at or above a 5.0 magnitude. Significant to extensive damage occurs for earthquakes exceeding 6.0 or greater magnitude. The world averages about 140 quakes of this intensity per year. Most of those still fall between 6.0 and 6.9. The energy released by earthquakes does not go up in a steady line for every 1.0 increase in magnitude. It's more of a logarithmic scale. For example, a 5.0 magnitude earthquake releases 31.6 times the amount of energy as a 4.0 earthquake. Take a 6.0 earthquake, and that increases by a factor of 1,000 as compared to that 4.0 earthquake.
And time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over Alaska.
Well, very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Dealing with pretty nice conditions for most of the Midwest today. Got a little bit of lake effect shower activity, but most of the Midwest, we're going to be in the 50s and even some 60s. Got a couple 40s on the map there for the day today. As we look ahead to tomorrow, we've got a few more clouds starting to move their way in, but temperatures still pretty comfortable for most of the Midwest and still dry with a little bit more sun by Friday.
Well, a good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Huchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, starting off in the 40s and 50s. It'll be a day of sunshine, dry weather, just a little bit warmer than recent days. Highs from 68 Little Rock, Houston 78, 81 in San Antonio. And then as we head into your forecast on Thursday, a little bit milder in the morning. Again, another day of sunshine, really delightful weather with highs 70s and 80s across the region.
Well, hi there and good Wednesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, it looks okay in Southern California, all the way into the deserts of the Southwest. We're at 71 today out of Albuquerque and a pleasant 65 in Salt Lake City. You can see the rain starting to knock on the door there in the PNW. We do have a big disturbance, but it's all stretched out, so it'll start to send some rain into Seattle and Portland. And that rain continues to curl all the way back toward Cape Mendocino as the day goes on. And that's the scene from here.
I'm Emma Keegan, meteorologist at WTOV 9 in Steubenville, Ohio and Wheeling, West Virginia, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
Have you ever heard of a moon halo? It's a pretty cool sight, and this time of year you have a great chance to actually see one. Meteorologist Joy Bettenhausen posted about it on Instagram. Take a look.
Okay, look at this. This is a moon halo. You can see it's a little faint on the sides, but that is a circular ring around this supermoon, and that's the Beaver moon that we just had. So a moon halo can technically happen any time of the year, but you have a little bit of a better chance to see that, especially in some of the colder months, because you need a lot of ice crystals in the atmosphere. And so if you look closely, you can see cirrus clouds showing, okay, there's a lot of ice crystals within those clouds and they're moving in. This is allowing the light to essentially, the moonlight, bend across all of those ice crystals. Now, the Farmer's Almanac has some interesting lore about these that they may indicate some bad weather is coming. Now, I don't know about that, but you'll have to let us know if you do see this and then see some bad weather afterwards.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great day, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.